Welcome, everybody. Yes, I'm wearing the Chat Schmat t-shirt. Welcome to another edition of Chat Schmat. And today we're going to talk about the state of the entertainment industry. We're just going to talk about Indiana Jones, No Time to Die, Star Trek, you name it, we're going to talk about it. And it's me, Johnny Porter. And as ever, I'm joined by Neil Stringer, who is here to help, wade our way through this stuff. So welcome along.
Hello, Johnny. It's good to be here again on this fab night, talking about some good entertainment or complaining about certain directions. Who knows what we're going to do tonight?
Who knows, indeed. But we do have a plan. In the holodeck, as you can see, and tonight we're going to talk about lots of things. But before we even attempt to do that, there's a couple of people that we would like to give an honourable mention to that have sadly passed away during the recording of this series. And first of all, Michael Ferguson, then John Chalice and Tony Selby. So we'll start with Michael Ferguson, who was a well-known figure in British TV. He was instrumental in keeping EastEnders a success, and a TV series called The Bill. He worked on that and brought some prominent characters and made that a success as well. And he also worked on Doctor Who. Neil, it's a bit of a sad loss because he was going to be on some of the other features in the Blu-rays.
Yeah, because he had done a couple of Triton stories and a couple of Pertwee stories, and I believe that the next box set coming out in Doctor Who has City of Death, and I believe he directed City of Death.
Yes, I think he did. And he brought in the Mitchells into EastEnders, which have become part of the British pop culture, really, haven't they now?
Yeah, sort of. The kind of bald-headed, manly brothers who aren't right to afraid. Does that mean that we have Michael Ferguson to thank for Russ Kemp's gangs program?
Well,
because if Ross Kemp didn't get cast as Grant Mitchell and become famous for playing Grant Mitchell, he would have done all these other stuff outside of EastEnders.
He would have been stuck doing Crunchy Nuts cornflakes, or no, what was it? It wasn't Crunchy Nut cornflakes. It was Bran Flakes. That was it, wasn't it? The Bran Flakes adverts. Oh, yeah. Tasty, very, very tasty. They're very tasty. But it was something like that. I don't know if it was Fruit and Fibre, one of those things that he was in.
It's Johnny again. I'm cutting into this just to explain that I was getting two completely different Kellogg's cereal adverts mixed up. And I have no idea where I got Crunchy Nut Cornflakes from, because I, as far as I'm aware, was not in Crunchy Nut Cornflakes adverts. But anyway, I was talking about Ross Kemp, and he was in the Fruit and Fibre advert. But the Bran Flakes advert was actually, they did various versions of these adverts over the years, but I was thinking about a particular one with Ray Winstone, who also is an actor who plays East End hardman type character all the time, and the occasional slightly Cockney Russian. But yeah, I was getting them mixed up. What am I talking about? Have a look at this.
A round of golf is great, it must be said.
But it's more fun on a golf course near the ledge.
But they've had some strange ideas about breakfast through the years, so I've Kellogg's Fruit and Fibre brought instead.
Crunchy whole wheat flakes and fruit are just the thing.
So it's quite the most important thing to bring. Apples, hazelnuts, bananas,
raisins, coconuts, sultanas.
Now my breakfast's really going with a swing.
Have you done your road work? You gotta keep your left up and say without any reply. But straight on Kellogg's Brown Flakes, that's a different matter. Here's where they all comply. They're tasty, tasty, very, very tasty. They're very tasty. You gotta try a left up followed with a right cross. Have you seen the guy you gotta beat? But straight on Kellogg's Brown Flakes, that's a different matter. Here's where they all agree. They're tasty, tasty, very, very tasty. They're Kellogg's Brown Flakes. They're very tasty.
And let's not forget Marlene.
And I've met John Chalice. He's really friendly and lovely to talk to in person. I got to sign my Seas of Doom DVD.
When you said when there was a pause there, I was thinking, what did you get him to sign? Yes, and actually, for the viewers' benefit, I'll show you the picture of Neil with John Chalice as well on screen.
And years ago, at my first ever con, I had met him as well. It was the first con I did back in 2002. He was doing an appearance with Sue Holderness, who Marlene, and that time he was more he was more in Boise mode. He was more in his Kyler mode. Whereas the second time I met him he was in Belfast's Crescent Arts Centre. I was doing talking about his career. I was the one who, when I asked him about doing Doctor Who, Neil McKeever, who was interviewing him, says, "Oh, I forgot to talk about Doctor Who," because he's just like that typical. He's really wonderful. Everyone think about it. He is one of those Boise, and Green Grass was a great spin-off because his performance as Boise was tremendous, and even when he played Scorpion Doctor Who, he just really, you can see him relishing that henchman role. And only in Doctor Who could that henchman get killed by a plant. Great story.
We also lost Tony Selby, who was a great comedy actor who appeared in lots of things in Minder. He was in what was that series he did they've been showing it recently?
The comedy show.
Yeah, in the army.
Get some in.
Get some in. That's it.
We my mum and dad got it on DVD, and I've watched a few episodes of it, and it's really funny. It's kind of like it's like he's kind of like what Winter Davies did for 8.5 Pop Mom, and the kind of the Colonel and is like Sergeant Major. He's kind of been a bit of a bully to the man, but only it's about the national service.
Yeah, and obviously Glitz from Doctor Who. I mean, all of these people are dip a toe in Doctor Who, but he always played these characters where they were either tough, or they were slightly, shall we say, simple, or like in Minder he played like a heavy, but the heavy was a bit simple. I guess it's of Mice and Men type.
Well, it's not. It's fun. It's interesting that you mentioned Minder. Is that on one of the interview he talks on the Travel Time Lord set. These were for the original DVDs back in 2008, and they were brought on for the season 23 Blu-ray edition of it. And he talks about how he saw Glitz as a intergalactic Arthur Daly.
That's right. Yes, he did. I forgot he'd said that. Yeah.
And the thing is, I suppose also Glitz is actually he was Robert Holmes' last comic creation, because Robert Holmes always loved to do these little comedy double acts in a lot of his stories, and Glitz and Dibber were the last two. So Glitz was like the last gift he gave us before he died.
And not only that, but obviously his appearances in Doctor Who will sort of live on through those box sets, and we'll be able to bring them out. And every time they polish them off and renew them and make them better, it's more a new audience will be able to watch them, and an old audience as well.
Well, all his episodes are on Blu-ray now because season 24 came out as well. So all his episodes are on Blu-ray now.
Yes. So what I will say then is to Michael Ferguson, to John Chalice and Tony Selby, here's to you with a special mug. Cheers, boys.
Cheers. Here's to you.
Hi there. If you've been enjoying our content, we'd be extremely grateful if you could like the video and comment. We're always happy to hear, interested to see your take on things. But more importantly than that, if you can subscribe, and if you can also click on the bell thingy, because that will let you know when the video is there. And we're trying to get to 100 subscribers, so if you can see your way to, helping us out there, that would be amazing. Anyway, back to the video.
Jack, you look like desperate Dan Lavernia. Go and serve.
Out of my way, Doris.
Now, you know the rules. I'm minding him. Now, if I was to let you have him, well, my reputation would be shot, wouldn't it?
Terry, what's all this?
I'll do anything for you. I'll be so good, boy.
So bear with us, people, because we're going to talk about Indiana Jones. And this information is coming from a printout that I made, coming from the Digital Spy website. And I thought it would be easier to summarize what's going on by going over this. So, yes, Indiana Jones 5 is happening, though it's taken years. The 5th installment in the franchise is in the works, and we had our first glimpse of Harrison Ford returning as Indy in early June 2021. If all goes well, which hasn't so far, we'll be seeing him back on the big screen with a release date set for the 29th of July 2022, which has since been changed to 30th of June 2023. Those who are wary of another film, don't worry. James Mangold, who took over directing from Steven Spielberg, knows it. I understand wariness. I live it, he wrote on Twitter. I'm just using this information to, relay the facts so far of the show, of the movie. I don't know if it'll make you happy, but my team and I will knock ourselves out trying to make something good. We admire the craft of the originals. I hope that you see real images. They'll look better to you than paparazzi shots from bushes. Maybe, just maybe, I won't let you down. I cherish old Hollywood pictures. Give me a little air to make the film, then make your judgments, okay? That's what he said. The cast joining Ford in the 5th Indy adventure is certainly mammoth. And while Mangold has taken over directing, Spielberg remains on board as a hands-on producer. Here's what we know about Indiana Jones so far. So, who's coming back? It'll be no shock whatsoever to hear that Harrison Ford, the man synonymous with the role, will be back in the hat one more time, it says here. Producer Frank Marshall clearly stated that the role would not be recast for the new movie. That's lucky, as Ford has said that no one else can play Indiana Jones apart from him. When I'm gone, he's gone. It's easy. Get it in your head. Phoebe Waller-Bridge has been cast as the female lead. We've been granted our first look at her in the movie too. She is being joined by Mads Mikkelsen and Marvel star Thomas Kretschmann, if that's how you say it, Black Panther's Shawnette Renee Wilson, and the Predator star Boyd Holbrook. The details of who they're playing is under wraps for now, although Mikkelsen has teased that the script was everything he wished it would be. I do think I'm invited in to create a character. I think that everybody wants that, he added. That's why they pick certain actors that they think can come up with certain things, and it will be a collaboration, as it always is. Since filming started, it has been confirmed that Toby Jones has joined the cast alongside Antonio Banderas. As with other newcomers, their roles have been kept secret. Behind the scenes, legendary composer John Williams has been confirmed to return to score the movie, continuing the journey he began 40 years ago with Raiders of the Lost Ark. In terms of another potential returning cast, John Rhys-Davies told Digital Spy that he wanted to reprise the much-loved role of Salah, who first appeared in Raiders of the Lost Ark and then again in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Marion Ravenwood, Indy's love interest in Raiders and Crystal Skull, might not be back, although involved in the film in its early stages. Karen Allen wasn't contacted when Indiana Jones 5 was officially announced back in 2016. Does that mean she's definitely not in it? Not necessarily, as a lot has changed since 2016. And she told Digital Spy that she's been up for exploring more of Marion's story. Another Crystal Skull star, Jim Broadbent, said in 2017 that he'd be willing to reprise the role of Charles Stansforth, Indy's boss at Marshall College. In a surprising move, Star Wars actor Mark Hamill has put himself out there as a possible villain in the 5th installment. They've said that we'd love to see, which would be interesting if that was true. And then it said it's a long story short, but Indiana Jones 5 is set to arrive, and the date I've given you is the 30th of June. It's already had a few release date changes due to the extended development of the movie and was supposed to be in the cinemas in July 2019. That date was shifted back and back. Filming finally got underway early June at Pinewood in the UK and other locations. We don't know how long the shoot is set to be, but hopefully it's a good sign that it'll hit July in, well, they've written 2022, but obviously there's more delays. There's been one snag, though, that Disney confirmed that Harrison Ford sustained a shoulder injury, which is what we've been talking about, while rehearsing for a fight scene. And it was reported that though the filming will continue while Ford recovers, which they've done, you can still film around these things, and he's back there filming away. Mangold, the director, also cleared up any suggestion that filming was being shut down, replying to a fan, "We're all good shooting," as of September the 8th. Reports are saying that Ford is back on site, which is what I heard as well. So things are moving on with it. It is actually
So because Lucasfilm got this, because Disney have got Lucasfilm and Lucasfilm does Indiana Jones, I take it that means Paramount Pictures aren't involved like they were in the other 4 films.
Well, no, it doesn't necessarily mean that, because Paramount could be the distributor, because Lucasfilm is a production company, not a distributor. So you know what I mean. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's Disney that's going to distribute it. It just means that Disney are now the owner of that particular production company. No,
it's just like because
Disney do like to distribute their own stuff. That's true, but
yeah, because the thing about Star Wars, because the one thing ever since Disney took over Star Wars, the one thing that I miss is the 20th Century Fox logo. Actually, the 20th Century Fox march playing over the Lucasfilm logo.
Well, technically speaking, they could put it on now because they do own 20th Century Fox. So, I mean, it's possible they could retroact that. So, yeah, there might be new cast members, but any details about what's happening is, kept hidden, although we are aware of some leaks, and we'll get to that in a minute. But thanks to filming a video, it looks like the Indy will go head-to-head with the Nazis again in the 5th movie. It's not clear if it's a flashback sequence or whether they're main villains of the movie. I don't think they're going to mention it here, so I will. Yeah, I think this is the last page. So I will tell you a little bit about this in a minute. But I'll finish off what this says here. We know that this movie will take place after Crystal Skull and feature, as you would imagine, an older Dr. Jones. Ford commented on revisiting the character later in life, saying, "It's interesting to see it in a different light. It will be fun and a good thing to do." It's been over a decade since the last Indy outing, so the film follows this too. Crystal Skull took place in 1957. It will take place during the late 60s, one of America's most turbulent, if slightly brilliant for movie nostalgia decades. In fact, a cryptic tweet may have confirmed our very suspicion, but whatever happens, Kathleen Kennedy has reassured fans it won't be a reboot. This lines up with the rumors that the new movie could have something to do with a space race, and we might get official confirmation on the plot to the 5th movie, although Disney might want to keep us guessing. Mangold hasn't revealed any of his plans for the movie, but did state that, like all of his movies, he's going to find an emotional center to operate from, and he wants to push the franchise to someplace new. And then the final section on this just says Indiana Jones 5 trailer, Indiana Jones footage yet. And it says filming might have started, but a trailer is probably still not going to be released for some time. Maybe since it's been such a long wait, we'll get something official while the filming is going on. We can dream, it says at the end. There are rumors out there that state that it's going to be a time travel story and that Phoebe Waller-Bridge, the plot is that old Indiana Jones, they find a vortex or something to take them into the past, and they meet a de-aged Indy from the other movies, and old Indy comes in with new Indy, or with young Indy, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge is there, and somehow or other the Indiana Jones dies, and then the de-aged original Indy helps save the day till the end of the movie, but has to stay in his own timeline. So therefore, Phoebe Waller-Bridge then takes on the mantle. I don't think she's going to be. She's not going to be Indiana Jones, but she's going to be, the next archaeology adventure person in the movies. Although they always say Jane Bond, so could this be Cindy Anna Jones? I don't know. I always take rumors with a pinch of salt, but there are things that have come up that have kind of confirmed that story, and people are pissed off because they think it's going to be this whole quote unquote woke storyline where old white guy gets killed and female takes over legacy. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but I will say this. I want to wait and see what the movie is like. The same with all of these things. I want to judge the movie on its own merits, not what people think or have said, because bear in mind that the movie has gone through several stages, and that doesn't mean that that's the current stage. I mean, you think if you've written a story and you've written a version of it, and then the first draft is nothing like the final draft, and someone saw like a stage in between, I mean, it would be nothing like the final verdict. So I do take these things, with a bit of caution. What do you think, Neil?
Well, the thing is, I will wait and see how it plays out. But with the climate as it is at the moment, I wouldn't put it past them, because what they think is a fresh idea, or what they want to do, what direction they take it into, to me, it's no longer a fresh idea. It becomes, we're just following the pack. So that's why I have a fear of them going into that direction, because it's a cliched feeling. It's the cliche of the industry at the moment. So it's a case of
you don't trust them.
I don't trust them, because I feel like, we're in this age now where we're in the Me Too era, and we're in the Marvel Cinematic Universe here. So everyone wants this here representation. They want which is great. The representation is great. I've never had a problem with it. In fact, I've always been an advocate for it. What annoys me today is that everyone's doing it, and it no longer feels fresh. It feels more like reactionary rather than progression. And
I think, Neil, if I can sort of jump in on that, because I think I know what you mean, and I just want to try and explain it to the viewers, is that that and I feel this way. This is certainly what I think is that the diversity thing, that it's not doing people justice. The way that it's being worked in Hollywood at the moment, it's not doing people justice. It's not giving them roles that I mean, it works in some cases, but I think creatively, I don't think it's working for people, because we're in this phase where instead of just going, let's make a movie, bring these people in. I mean, funnily enough, we discussed this in another podcast actually, but in the TV show Only Murders in the Building, if you actually look at that show, that's a good example of being a very inclusive show without actually screaming it from the rooftops or shouting about it. They've got these characters, they come in, they do their thing, they talk, they interact, and it's all very natural. There's
Yeah.
none of this back padding and
I mean,
people down and all that kind of thing.
I've watched ever since I watched Star Trek. I've always been supportive of diversity, and I've always treated people that that I've always said that everyone deserves the same recognition. It's but there's a difference between doing it well and just box ticking. And it feels like back in 2003, it was great when they made Starbuck a woman when Ron Moore did his revival of Battlestar Galactica. It was a fresh take on Battlestar. It was, and although it took the core concept of Battlestar Galactica, it reinvigorated, and it felt like it was on show. But we are now in an age where whenever any show is revived or rebooted, at least one male character is transformed to a woman, and it's got to the point now where it's no longer innovative. It's just more lazy to me. It just feels like it becomes it's a cliche now, and I miss the fact. To me, it just doesn't feel like it's fresh. I mean, everyone wants to have their own pay. It's like whenever one film, it's like whenever there's a big blockbuster or a big blockbuster series, there's hundreds of people who go, give me the next one and give me the next one. The studios want their producers to be the next Kevin Feige, but the problem is they kind of miss the point of why Kevin Feige's model for the Marvel films works. And I think there's a lot of that going on. There's a lot. We're doing it there. We're making ground. We're making progress. But to me, it's more reactionary rather than actually being progressive. It's it's everyone reacting to other people in the business and saying, "I want one of those." It's me too. It's become like the new blockbuster guarantee. Now the problem with woke is it's become the boy who cried wolf now as well. We've got to the stage now. If there's too many female characters or too many, people cry rogue, and they're missing the point. We need better representation, and we're getting it. But it's and I think that's great. It's how we're going about it. People who complain about older shows, it's how you go about it, if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, everyone's obviously entitled to their opinion, and obviously there is a generation gap between what people have enjoyed in the past and what they enjoy today. And certainly, I think if you're talking about a movie like Indiana Jones, it's a blockbuster movie. Now, the thing about it is, what a lot of people are worried about is when you take a beloved franchise and then you ruin it by, making the main character. I mean, this is maybe a slight exaggeration, but there's a lot of man hating going on, where basically male characters are shat upon. Now, don't get me wrong. I think in programs, if you want to be balanced, of course, there are going to be a lot of guys who are pricks, and there are going to be a lot of women who are evil. But the problem with a lot of Hollywood movies, especially the sort of things that Marvel do, where you are trying to, it's like junk food, in movie sense. You don't always necessarily get a nuanced script or something like that, and it's the problem with it is that in order to fit everything in, and in order to try and raise the women up in the films, a lot of them take men down, whereas some men are good, some men are bad, but also this idea of very, very simplistic outlook on it is a bit disappointing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly. And also, you see this turning male characters to women. Why not create new strong female roles? Because there's plenty of room for it.
I think the thing about that is that there are probably plenty of people out there, creative people, that are not well known and are trying to make their way in the industry, who would be able to write more representative characters that aren't getting through because the people who are there are trying to do diversity themselves, who aren't necessarily. It's not their wheelhouse. A lot of actually television is doing a lot to try and redress that balance more than Hollywood, and that is that they bring in the relevant writers that can write the backgrounds rather than some white bloke from New York trying to write about someone from Zimbabwe or something. They actually get that culture to be involved in it.
I mean, Daniel Craig was asked about a female Bond, and he said, "Come on, there's more challenging female roles that could be had out there."
Yes. With that, we're going to move on to the next topic, which is No Time to Die. Now, before we go any further, if you have not seen this movie, then please, please, please go and watch it, and then come back and bookmark this video, come back and watch this, because this is your spoiler alert. And in fact, if you're old enough to remember when they used to have the football results on news, and they say, if you don't want to know the results, look away.
Right now.
So this is our moment, the grandstand moment or whatever. Spoiler alert.
So you want to know? Go get yourself a cup of coffee, make yourself a toasted sandwich or something. Get yourself a donut, and hopefully by the time you've you've made that cup of coffee, and you've had that warm sensation inside your body as you drink that first sip, hopefully you've missed the spoiler.
You can come back and watch the rest of this video. But remember, once you watch the movie, you can come back here, and this video will be here waiting for you. What are we going to say about this movie? Because I just want to say something. I try not to jump. People today are too quick to comment or leap on to things. They get a bit of news about something and go, oh, I can't believe that. Oh, that's happened. I prefer to, yes, I'll read it and go, oh, I hope that doesn't happen, or I hope that does happen. I look at them and I sit back and I wait. But people get on social media and then they go, oh, this is so crazy. Superman's bisexual. I can't believe this. No. Superman's gay. No. That's not happening. I can, without reading the whole in and out of what actually the information is about that, and that it's a separate story, it's a different character, it's all this stuff. No, you need to don't what they call have a knee-jerk reaction, because that's the problem. Social media has made people do that at everything, take a knee-jerk reaction. So my point about that is when they had this whole thing about Daniel Craig is no longer 007, people jumped on that. Not only that, but there was a black actress who was playing 007, who played this character in the movie, and that made people even more angry. And she got a lot of hate mail or tweets or whatever, and it was crazy because people didn't. It was obvious a mile off that the whole story was not going to be James Bond is now a woman and all this stuff. No, this is part of a plot of a story. And you've got to be careful not to just jump in there and go, oh, I'm never watching Bond again. Oh. Now, if you see the movie and you say to yourself, I didn't like it, I'm not watching, that's completely different. So cut to the pandemic happens, and the film gets delayed. So they don't get the chance to redress that. They don't get the chance for people to go, oh, do you know what? It actually wasn't that. So this movie and this girl have had this whole extended hell of people thinking this movie is going to be dreadful. And then when you actually watch it, it's a really good movie.
But then again, I've also noticed two sides of attack. Obviously, there's the old school Bond fans, and also the ones who are older than us, who are there from the beginning of the film series, or had or who had grown up watching the Connery and Roger Moore ones, which we did as well. But we being born later, we came into it later as well, and but we are of that generation.
Yeah, the first Bond movie that I saw in the cinema was Octopussy, so that's where I,
Well, that was my first.
You know.
But what I would say is there's a lot of old school fans who have been critical about certain parts of this film. Some of them had been spoiled and they thought, I said, I'm done with Bond, I don't like this. And then there's younger fans who including their director who would say that Bond is a sexist bully and not a nice character, and to a way they're missing the point of James Bond. But Bond's character, he does have traits that for today's younger audience would probably not really appreciate. No, I mean, if you look at some of the early Sean Connery ones, he slaps women on the butts, but and then today's audience will go, what the hell's he doing? He can't do that. But you have to put yourself in the mindset of 1963 or 64, whatever, go figure, came out. That this is pre-women's libs, and women were treated differently, but if they actually go through the bottom, they'll see that the role of the woman has improved, has strengthened, that they become Bond's equal, and but people have to watch older Bond films in the context of the time, and I think Bond films, if you go through them all, they are representative of the time. I know a lot of Bond fans who don't like the Daniel Craig ones because I think they think it's gone too Jason Bourne-ish. They don't like that style, and they think it's missing something of the fantastic. Now, sometimes Bond can be a bit too fantastic. I mean, Dead or Day, Pierce Brosnan's last one, went into overboard. So yeah, there is a school that there's two generations. Now, Daniel Craig's Bond films are a total reinvention of Bond, but I don't think it alienates Bond, but it is a reinvention.
The thing is, what you have to remember is, if you're a producer and you've been making content using the same material for a number of years, it's very difficult. I think whenever Pierce Brosnan did finish as Bond, it would have been very difficult for them to find somebody to come back and do the same thing. I think at that point, the movies had reached a certain plateau where they couldn't do any more. And I think people, what people need to realize is that the way in which they brought it back with Daniel Craig helped to save the Bond franchise. And in fact, Michael Wilson had said, previously in an interview, that although they were particular about the character of Bond and that sort of thing and the legacy, that they wouldn't rule out creative changes to the franchise, because their role is to keep it relevant and to make more. And you can't make more if you set out to make a film today that the character is from the 1950s, which is where Bond, I suppose, is that's where he's set in the books.
Yeah.
And so if you bring a 1950s man to the modern day, it's not going to fit. So of course you have to adjust. Same in the 80s and same in the 70s. So the problem is where a lot of people, and listen, there's no right or wrong answer. You don't have to like all the Bond movies. You don't have to like all the Bonds. I'm lucky in that I can find enjoyment in all the movies. But there's a history there of many, many years, decades of movies. So people dip in and out of the movies. But my point is, what I'm trying to say is, for the viewers, is that what Daniel Craig did for the franchise, made it more, it gave it more realism, and out of that, I find more drama.
And I also find that he's doing what Timothy Dalton was doing in his two Bond films. The difference being that when Timothy Dalton did it, I don't think the audiences were ready for that style because I think they had been used for over a decade of Roger Moore, and Roger Moore had the more lighter tone, more tongue in cheek. And we did kind of harken back that with Pierce Brosnan's later Bond films, but Dalton was a darker, hotter edge Bond, especially the second film. And that's the kind of Bond that Daniel Craig has continued to develop, but we're more in an age where that's what the audience want. Now, the thing is, but the Daniel Craig films also do break away from the formula as well. Like, I remember doing an essay years ago. There's a whole formula. There's a whole you would get like a lot of times the pre-title sequence, the teaser, it could be either a mini adventure that's on its own or a early thing that could lead into the main story, and then after you set up the major setup or the major inciting incident for the plot, and then the governments are alerted. So Bond meets FM, gets his assignment, and then meets his agent, a contact agent, gets to be also before he goes on. He goes down to the Q branch to get his gadgets and all, and then by the end of the film, one of the Bond women dies. Not always, but then he always ends up in bed or in a compromising position with the Bond girl. None of that really happens in the Daniel Craig ones, but yet what Daniel Craig's Bond films still have in comparison to the other is the spectacle of the stunts, the scale of the action that has, and the hype,
Not to mention the cinematography as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, the gun barrel is still there in film, but Casino Royale broke up tradition and did not open with the gun barrel. The gun barrel element came in at the start of the title sequence, and then for the next two Bond films, it was at the end. It wasn't until Spectre that it went back to the beginning, and I remember at the time thinking, wow, because to me that was the signature to tell me this is a James Bond film, and it felt like it was moving away. But in hindsight, it's a bold move. When Bond went over the top with Moonraker, they went back to basics with the next one, For Your Eyes Only, and I feel like Casino Royale is the same thing, going back to basics with Die Another Day. And also, I believe Daniel Craig's Bond films are the only ones where there seems to be an arc throughout all 5 of his movies. They're not standalone. Well, they can be standalone, but they are all part of an ongoing saga. They all tie in with each other, which is a big departure from past Bond films because most Bond films are standalone.
Yeah, because they use the same cast except when the Bond changes or if somebody dies or something like that.
I mean, I think Jeffrey Wright has now beaten David Hedison as the actor who played Felix Leiter the most. Because Felix Leiter was almost always played by a different actor each time you saw him in a Bond film.
Yeah. In fact, which one was it now? Living Daylights, was it played by a really young guy?
Yeah. And then in License to Kill, David Hedison comes back, who had played him in Live and Let Die.
But there's one thing, Neil, that we need to discuss, and that is our very own Rocket Man, Shatner.
Yeah.
Launching into space.
Bernie, his shoes up here. Hello. Oh no.
But he had a profound experience, but he launched off into space and was brought to tears, actually. And I saw him interviewed a couple of times talking about it, and very interesting.
I think it makes us. I think if I was in Shatner's position, you see the world from up in space, and you realize, that we're insignificant compared to the rest of the planet and the universe.
And he talked about this blue cover coming down, meaning the sky, and then up, and very interesting. I mean, I'd love to go to space sometime. I don't think I'll live long enough for it to be affordable for the likes of us. But
also, I did feel that Jeff Bezos was a bit disrespectful. I know Jeff Bezos is a Star Trek fan, but I saw that clip, and I know Jimmy Kimmel did a wee effect on there, a joke out of it, of him being away from the place because he was trying to be profound, and Jeff Bezos and the other people seem to be more interested in firing the champagne, and Shatner was just kind of standing there going, like out there. And I know Jimmy Kimmel had him beam out, to the effect of him beaming out, because it just felt like
one of those things like Jeff Bezos. He treats everything like that man has more money than you'll ever know, and he treats everything like a property. He went up with Amelia Earhart's goggles or something whenever he went up himself. Just to have, not because he felt any kind of deference to Amelia Earhart, but just because he could afford it, and do you know what I mean? Just to boast that he could do it.
And also,
there he wanted these girls who were shaking the champagne right in the middle of someone trying to say something profound. So, like he sounded like a real child. Oh, I want some. Can I have some? Bring some over here. Not wanting to miss out. It's just like,
and I feel like it's kind of taken away from the moment for Shatner, and I shop on Amazon because they have good deals, and I always get vouchers. But I do wish that they would treat they see the guys who do the deliveries and stuff. I wish they would treat it better, because and get unions, because I mean after watching that film, Sorry Miss You, I just hate to see what they go through.
And the other thing as well is that he did then hug him. He did actually get to say what he wanted to say. He hugged him, but he is so. That's a guy. They're so used to getting what they want that they just can almost treat people like a commodity as well. He basically said, essentially, this is not him saying this, but this is me paraphrasing how it went down. I'm going to buy Captain Kirk, because he has all the action figures, so he's treating William Shatner like a life-size action figure. I'm going to prop him in my rocket and send him into space. That's how it felt to me watching it.
I think that must be why George Takei called it. So I think that's, I know that George Takei's comments are very scathing, but I think that's probably another reason why the term guinea pig came up in George Takei, because because that's probably how Jeff Bezos sees it. But at the same time, I feel like George Takei was a bit too scathing in his comment, calling him Shatner unfit.
Well, I think the thing is not to take away from his experience, because it doesn't really matter about Jeff Bezos and all that stuff, because at the end of the day, William Shatner got to go into space, and he got to go in, and there's a man who played in the fictional world, played a captain of a starship, and there he was in a rocket getting to see the Earth from above. I mean, that's got to be. I mean, Captain Kirk in space. I mean, you couldn't write those headlines.
I know, and all the memes that came out of that shot of him looking at the camera through the window. I mean, obviously the gold mine of Photoshop there, and I said my favorite one has to be the gremlin from the Twilight Zone episode he was in.
And I had mentioned myself on my own Facebook page about the episode of The Outer Limits from the 60s, where he played an astronaut that worked on a thing called Project Vulcan, where he went to Venus, and then he came back and he was very cold, and we saw like a little alien thing. But I was just thinking of that, because they, in the commentary, the people who, I don't know what that was, it wasn't Amazon Prime, but wherever the Blue Origin, they filmed the launch of that rocket, and they had people in the studio commentating on it and things like that. A couple of girls, and they were saying things like, "Oh, it's William Shatner. He's a singer as well," and all this stuff. they're astronauts, and they were calling them astronauts. I mean, I think it's a stretch to call them an astronaut. Space tourist is closer to the truth.
It's like saying that we go up to the very top of the sky and somehow we're astronauts.
Yeah. Well, I think they're further than the surface of the planet. So, or from the not the surface of the planet, from the atmosphere of the planet. So I get, if they'd gone to the space station, I think they are astronauts, but astronauts train for months, if not years, because they live there whereas that was just a 10-minute trip.
Well, as I said, I have a love-hate relationship with Discovery. It's a show that some of it frustrates me. Other stuff, I watch it and go, that's a really cool thing. There's some really cool stuff. And I do admit that season 3 was a better season of the show. And I've been rewatching Discovery midweek. And now that I've distanced myself from my feelings the first time I watched Discovery, where it was very hard because it was such a departure from what I love as Star Trek, I've started to appreciate it more for what it's doing than I did when it started. Now, it's still got some terrible writing. I still think Burnham is a frustrating character. And we watched the season 2 opener last night. I forgot that Tilly becomes more annoying in the second season than she was in the first season. And I've been reading up, about more behind the scenes of the other Star shows. And, it's kind of opened up certain aspects of the production, side. Discovery will always be my least favorite Star Trek show. But because I've admitted that out of the Kurtzman shows, that Lower Decks, the animated one, has become my favorite out of the Kurtzman stuff. And I think that's because it goes back, it pays homage to the Bourbon era and the classic era and even the animated series. And there's a lot of references. I'm going, oh yes, I remember that. There's a lot of that in Lower Decks, which I love as a fan. I'm going, oh, that's great. And I'm loving that when I'm watching Lower Decks, if that makes sense. So that I like that on Lower Decks. And that's
basically
why
the fanboy in you appreciates more Lower Decks than the other stuff. But
yeah.
But yeah.
Picard's great. I mean, I think Patrick Stewart does a phenomenal job, as he always does. I just feel like Patrick Stewart got all that recognition years ago when he played him in Next Generation, because Patrick Stewart was always phenomenal, even in the movies as well. And he's phenomenal in Picard. I think Picard sometimes feels like it's a hard place to see your childhood heroes in, if you know what I mean.
It's chatschmat.com. That's where you'll find all the videos plus some information about ourselves and about what we're trying to do. And if you want to just watch the videos, if you just want to watch our YouTube videos, which are basically the podcasts/vodcasts, then the web address it's chatschmat.youtube.com. And we are trying to get to 100 subscribers. So it's amazing that such an amazing podcast as us hasn't got a million subscribers by now. But, we're humbly asking you to help us get to 100 subscribers. And there might be, I use the word might, there might be a small prize for somebody somewhere along the way. So keep checking those comment sections too. There will be a little video made when we do decide on what prize there's going to be and when it's going to be given out. But more on that at another stage.
One thing,
yes,
it's not a speedboat. It's not a speedboat.
It's not a speedboat, and it's not a home gym if you're over 70. But once again, thank you very much for joining us today. I hope you found it interesting, and hope our take on things was interesting for you. Always keen to find out what the viewers think of these things as well, because I will admit, I know it's hard sometimes to admit that I am not always right. I only have an opinion on things. So, you're entitled to your opinion too. So let's all get together and have a conversation about things, and don't be that guy that, makes everyone upset, that kicks the sand in everyone's faces. Let's not be that guy. But It's the end, I'm afraid, and I'm in the holodeck, and I've got to go to the 10 forward now for something to eat. But from me and this episode of Chat Schmat, thank you once again for joining us. It's goodbye and see you next time.
Goodbye. Live long and prosper.
You know what the impression I had that I never expected to have is you shooting up.
Oh my God.
Give me a champagne bottle.
Come here.
I want one. I want to hear this. Here. You want a little of this? Okay.